Most organizations won't face a situation that looks like this, but that doesn't mean every organization shouldn't be prepared. In fact, that's the biggest mistake found by Jane Shapiro, the National Service Leader for Corporate and Crisis Communications at Hill & Knowlton, a Toronto-based public relations firm.
The most common error is simply not to be prepared, to have situations happen to them and say, wow, what now?
Organizations need to first think about how they can prepare their employees during a time of crisis.
And one of the best ways to go about doing that is to have media and social media protocols already in place. So that means that your employees know that when they get calls from media, unless they are authorized spokespeople, they don't take those calls. They refer them to your media spokesperson. They know that when situations happen that affect the company or the organization, they don't go on social media and talk about it. And if those policies are already in place, those protocols are in place, then what you need to do at the very outset of any situation is to say, remember, don't do that.
There are two types of communication that organizations need to consider: external and internal. External communications include determining what your organization's message is, who the spokesperson will be, and how that messaging will be delivered. And internal communications should arm employees with your organization's message, because your staff is ultimately the face of the organization in the community.
When they do go home to their friends and their family, they have a context and they have some content to talk to others about. Remembering at all times that any communication that you send, generally by email, but even by voicemail, to your employees is not a private communication, it's a public communication. And it will transfer into the public domain. And so you have to be absolutely certain that anything you say is something that you would be comfortable seeing in the public domain and is comfortable indeed with what you are saying in the public domain.
In the November 18th issue of Canadian HR Reporter, Liz Bernier looks at how employees can prepare for a protest. Being prepared for a protest means putting in a lot of planning ahead of time. Jane says organizations need to consider what the situations are that put their business and their reputation at risk.
And what that means is thinking in advance, what are the situations that put our organization at risk, that put our reputation at risk, and thinking about them, preparing for them. If it happened, what would we do? What would our messages be? Who would our spokespeople be? Are they prepared for that kind of thing?
It may be surprising to find out who should be prepared for that and who shouldn't speak right away.
In general, it's not going to be your most senior person at the beginning of a protest. What that does is lend a lot of credibility to the situation. Sometimes it gives the impression the situation is more serious than perhaps it might be, and it doesn't leave you any options should the situation get worse or demand a more senior presence. But for all of those reasons, you really would prefer to have your CEO not there, and that you deal with that at a more middle level. But having said that, it really depends again on the nature of the situation. Is it a situation that affects only your company? Is it a situation that is aimed at a broader community of interests? And who are the demonstrators, protesters, and what's their cause? So there are a lot of factors in that equation. Generally, you don't start at the top.